You know what genuinely bothers me about modern sci-fi? Studios will spend $200 million on a film where cities explode for 2 hours and you leave the theater remembering absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, someone makes a time travel masterpiece for $7,000 in their garage and it lives in your head for years. Budget doesn't buy ideas. It doesn't buy atmosphere. And it absolutely doesn't buy the kind of obsessive creativity that comes from having no money and infinite commitment. I've spent the last month rewatching low-budget sci-fi that shouldn't exist. Films made for pocket change that do things $300 million blockbusters wouldn't dare attempt. 18 films, ranked. Every single one proves that limitation breeds invention. A man wakes up alone on the moon with 3 years left on his contract and nobody to talk to except an AI that might be lying. A Japanese cafe where walking to the back room sends you 2 minutes into the future. 5 friends at a dinner party the night a comet passes overhead. And reality starts coming apart at the seams. Number 1 on this list cost only $200,000 and was written by a dying man who wanted to ask one final question before he left. It has no special effects, no action, just people in a room. And it will destroy you. Let's go. Number 18. Time Lapse.
No way. Mr. B invented a camera that takes pictures of the future.
3 friends discover their missing neighbor's invention, a camera pointed at their apartment window that takes a photo exactly 24 hours into the future. Every morning, they get a Polaroid showing what they'll be doing tomorrow night. And then they start using it to cheat. At gambling, at art, at relationships. But here's the trap the film springs beautifully. If they can see the photo of tomorrow, they have to recreate it exactly. Or does the timeline change? Are they choosing freely? Or are they just executing what's already been decided? Made for under $100,000. Bradley King wrote and directed this as a micro-budget Twilight Zone episode stretched to feature length. 1 location, 3 actors, 1 camera. And the final reveal, which recontextualizes every photo you've seen, is one of the nastiest time loop gut punches in recent sci-fi. This is smarter than it had any right to be on its budget. If you love time travel with airtight internal rules and a willingness to follow them into very dark places, Time-lapse is criminally underseen. Number 17. Radius.
We are currently referring.
A man wakes up after a car accident with no memory, and every living thing within 50 feet of him drops dead instantly. Birds fall from the sky. Insects stop mid-flight. He wanders through abandoned towns trying to understand what he's become until he meets a woman who survived his radius. She has no memory either, and when they're together, the death field disappears. Made for only $15,000 in Canada. The premise is high-concept horror wearing sci-fi clothes, and the film commits to it completely. No explanation for the first hour, just 2 people trying to survive proximity to each other while piecing together a past neither of them can access. The third act reveals and recontextualizes everything, and the final shot is cold enough to make you sit through the credits in silence. Not perfect, but far more ambitious and strange than it had any right to be on its budget. If you want sci-fi that earns its premise through commitment rather than spectacle, this is quietly excellent. Number 16. Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes. A wildly creative Japanese sci-fi comedy that proves you don't need a massive budget to make brilliant science fiction.
僕が現在の僕で、僕が2分後の僕で、僕が4分後の僕.
A cafe owner in Kyoto discovers something impossible. The TV in his apartment upstairs shows the cafe below, 2 minutes into the future. The TV downstairs shows his apartment, 2 minutes into the past. That's it. That's the entire film. 1 location, 1 night, shot in a single continuous take. What Junta Yamaguchi does with that premise is one of the most joyful, brain-bending experiments in recent sci-fi. The characters start playing with the loop, leaving messages for themselves, creating recursive conversations, and stacking paradoxes until the timeline folds in on itself like origami. Made for approximately $27,000, The entire cast and crew were theater actors and friends. The single take is actually multiple stitched shots hidden by clever blocking. But it doesn't matter. The illusion works. This is sci-fi at its purest. Creative problem solving. No budget, no effects. Just an idea executed with precision and genuine love for the craft. If you've never heard of it, no worries. Now you've heard it. Go and watch tonight. Number 15. Time Trap.
We're teaching assistants for Professor Hopper.
These hippies went missing back in the 70s.
Hopper went on this massive search for the van they left in the day they went missing. And he didn't come back.
A group of students follows their professor into a remote cave in the Texas Hill Country. He's searching for a group of hippies who vanished in the 1970s. But when they find him, they find something else. Time inside the cave moves differently. Minutes inside equal days outside. Hours equal years. And the deeper you go, the worse it gets. Made for under $1 million. The premise has been done before, but what directors Mark Dennis and Ben Foster understand is that time dilation isn't a plot device. It's a nightmare. Watching the sun strobe across the sky outside the cave entrance while you're stuck underground creates a specific kind of existential dread that $200 million films rarely attempt. The film moves fast, doesn't waste time on exposition, trusts you to keep up, and the final act goes somewhere genuinely unexpected, revealing a scope that the budget had no business attempting. Critics were mixed. But streaming audiences found it years later, and it's quietly built a following. If you want 90 minutes of propulsive, inventive sci-fi that understands pacing, this delivers completely. Number 14. Aniara.
Välkommen ombord på Aniara. Vi är ett toppmodernt transportskepp som kommer att ta dig hela vägen ifrån jorden till Mars på 3 veckor.
A luxury spaceliner is evacuated from a dying Earth, carrying thousands of passengers on a 3-week journey to Mars. Then, something goes wrong. The ship is knocked off course, and the crew realizes they're now drifting through empty space with no way to course correct. 3 weeks becomes 3 years. 3 years becomes decades. And the film watches what happens to a society that knows it will never arrive anywhere. Based on a 1956 Swedish epic poem by Harry Martinson. Directed by Pelle Kagerman and Hugo Lilja for under $4 million. And it is one of the bleakest, most uncompromising sci-fi films. Emily Johnson plays the operator of Mima, an AI that provides emotional comfort through immersive memories, and her performance is devastating. She watches her purpose become first essential, then insufficient, then unbearable. This is not a fun film. It's a patient, merciless meditation on mortality and meaning in a universe that provides neither. If you want sci-fi that refuses to comfort you, Aniara is extraordinary. Number 13. Circle.
Look at your hands. When you move them, it changes the floor.
It's a vote. They're killing whoever gets the most votes.
It's us. We're choosing who dies.
50 people wake up standing in a dark room. They're arranged in a circle. Every 2 minutes, someone dies. They quickly realize they're voting. Each person can send a pulse toward anyone else in the circle. Whoever gets the most votes is killed. That's the film. 90 minutes, 1 room, a moral experiment with a body count. Made for $250,000. No stars. The entire cast is unknown. And the script is one of the most ruthless pieces of social allegory in recent sci-fi. The group tries to establish rules. Save the children, kill the old first. Then someone points out that the pregnant woman should live. Then someone argues based on utility. Then race becomes a factor. Then age. Then gender. The film watches a group of rational people descend into exactly the kind of tribalism and self-preservation you'd expect when survival becomes a matter of voting. It's not subtle. It's not trying to be. It's a blunt instrument designed to make you argue with everyone you're watching it with. Some people hate it. The people who love it can't stop thinking about it. Which group are you in? Let me know in the comments. Number 12. The Endless.
How is that possible?
Two brothers escaped a UFO death cult years ago. Now they've received a mysterious videotape from the group. Still alive, still waiting. They decide to visit, just for closure. Just to prove to themselves it was all nonsense. And then time starts looping. Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead wrote, directed, and starred in this. The film's visual effects budget was reportedly less than the catering budget on most Hollywood productions. And they made something most low-budget sci-fi doesn't attempt. It builds a mythology. The cult isn't what you think. The entity they worship is real, and the brothers are now inside something far older and far stranger than a group of deluded believers. What makes The Endless genuinely unsettling is the tone. It's not horror. It's not a thriller. It's closer to cosmic dread, wearing the clothes of a mumblecore road trip. Two guys are arguing in a truck, while reality quietly bends around them. This is sci-fi for people who want ideas that crawl under your skin and stay there. Made for Nothing accomplishes everything. Number 11. Prospect.
I'm here to harvest. I have the location of a massive deposit of Orlac. The Queen's Lair. By my estimation, it's the largest anyone's ever seen.
Sophie Thatcher plays C, a teenager who has spent her whole life following her father from one dangerous extraction job to another on alien moons nobody glamorous would ever visit. They land on a toxic moon to harvest valuable organic gems. Her father makes a deal with a stranger. The deal goes wrong, and now C is stranded on a poisonous planet with the man who just killed her father, played by Pedro Pascal. And she needs him to survive. And he needs her to find the gems. Prospect is the best Pedro Pascal film most people have never seen. Made for under $4 million. Shot in the forests of Washington state in suits that look patched, fogged, and held together with determination. Slash Film called it the best indie science fiction film since Moon. The world building, done entirely through casual dialogue and what things look like, is more convincing than most films with 10 times the budget. A film for people who want their sci-fi grimy, patient, and real. Number 10. The Quiet Earth. New Zealand, 1985. Zach Hobson wakes in a motel room, and the world is gone. No bodies, no wreckage, no explanation. 8 billion people, just gone. He's a scientist. He was working on something called Project Flashlight, a global energy experiment. He suspects he knows what happened. He suspects it was him. Made for under $1 million in 1985, based on a novel by Craig Harrison. And it's one of the most haunting post-apocalypse films ever made. Bruno Lawrence plays Zach with a rawness most end-of-the-world films never approach. Because he's not playing a hero in an empty world, he's playing a man coming apart inside one. The scenes where isolation tips into mania, speeches delivered to empty cities, crowning himself president of nothing, are some of the finest character work the genre has produced. The final image has been argued over for 40 years. I promise, when you watch, you'll understand why. Number 9. Monsters.
What is that?
Six years ago, a NASA probe crashed in Mexico, carrying alien life samples. The region became an infected zone. The creatures spread. The U.S. built a wall. A photographer is hired to escort his employer's daughter through the quarantine zone to the coast before the border closes. Gareth Edwards made this for $500,000. He shot it with a crew of 5 people, a consumer camera, and no permits. Every extra in the film is a real person Edwards approached on location and asked to improvise. The aliens exist. You see them. But they're not the story. The story is of 2 people moving through a war zone that has become routine. Soldiers, checkpoints, destroyed cities that people still live in because there's nowhere else to go. The creature effects were done by Edwards himself on his laptop. He said in interviews that the entire post-production VFX budget was around $15,000. The result is something that feels more real than films with 100 times the budget. Because Edwards understands that spectacle without context is noise. This is the film that got Edwards hired to direct Godzilla and Rogue One. Watch it and you'll understand why. Number 8. Chronicle.
I'm worried about Andrew.
Listen to me. We can't screw around with this. It's too dangerous. Andrew, it's not a game. Andrew! Stop this right now!
3 high school kids find something in a hole in the ground. It gives them telekinesis. At first, it's fun. Moving things with their minds, flying, pranks. The found footage gimmick, one of the kids films everything, makes the discovery feel immediate and raw. Then, one of them starts using it for something else. Josh Trank made this for $12 million, which is nothing for a superhero-adjacent film. And what he does with it is take the superhero origin story and turn it into something darker and more true. Andrew, played by Dane DeHaan, is an abused kid, isolated, angry. And when he gets power, he doesn't become a hero. He becomes exactly what you'd expect an angry, isolated teenager with godlike abilities to become. The film builds toward a final confrontation in downtown Seattle that's one of the most visceral, destructive, superpowered fights ever put on screen. Not clean, not heroic. They barely understand tearing a city apart. The found footage conceit breaks down in the third act. The film starts using security cameras, phone footage, news helicopters to maintain the format, and it works because the format was never the point. The escalation was. Chronicle is proof that you don't need Marvel money to make a superhero film that actually says something. Number 7. Moon.
Come outside. Who is he? You tell me who that is!
Perhaps you're imagining things.
Sam Bell has been alone on the moon for 3 years. He manages a mining operation, one of the most important energy sources on Earth, almost entirely by himself. His only company is Gertie, the station AI, voiced by Kevin Spacey. His contract ends in 2 weeks. He is nearly home. And then he has an accident and finds something in the wreckage that makes him question everything he thought he knew about who he is. Duncan Jones made this for $5 million. Sam Rockwell is alone on screen for almost the entire film, and he gives one of the finest performances in the history of science fiction cinema. Not because the role is showy, because it is specific in a way that most performances never are. You know this man. The way he misses his wife, the way he talks to himself, the way he holds himself together through routine. Because routine is the only thing standing between him and the void, both outside the window and inside his chest. Moon is about loneliness, about identity, about what a corporation owes the people it uses, about what it means to be human when the definition of human becomes complicated. It asks every question it raises with complete honesty, and it answers them with complete courage. I watched this years ago, and I still think about it. It is one of those films that doesn't leave you. That's not filmmaking. That's the thing filmmaking is trying to be. Number 6. Upgrade.
Can I have everybody's attention?
I'm looking for the guys who murdered my wife.
A low-tech guy in a high-tech world, whose wife is murdered, and he gets paralyzed in the same attack. An experimental AI implant called STEM is wired directly into his nervous system. He can walk, he can fight, he can do things with his body that shouldn't be possible. Lee Winnell made this for $3 million, and it's one of the most viscerally satisfying action sci-fi films of the decade. Logan Marshall Green plays Gray Trace, and when the AI takes over his body, the performance becomes something genuinely strange. His face stays confused and horrified while his body moves with inhuman precision. The camera locks to his head while his limbs do things he doesn't understand. The action sequences are brutal, inventive, and shot with a kinetic energy most $200 million blockbusters can't touch. The film knows exactly what it is. A B-movie revenge thriller with A-tier craft and one genuinely nasty idea at its center. The ending goes dark. Like, properly dark. And it earns it completely. If you want proof that you don't need a massive budget to make unforgettable action sci-fi, Upgrade is your evidence. Number 5. Cube. 6 strangers wake up in identical cube-shaped rooms. Some rooms are safe, some are trapped. Razor wire, acid spray, flesh-incinerating heat. They don't know where they are. They don't know why they were taken. And they have to figure out the mathematical pattern governing the maze before they run out of time. Vincenzo Natali made this for $350,000 in Toronto. The entire film takes place in one set, a cube they redressed with different colored lighting for each room. And it's one of the great high-concept sci-fi horror films of the 90s. The cast are unknowns. The setup is pure allegory. People trapped in a system they don't understand, created for a purpose that might not exist. What makes Cube genuinely unsettling is that it never explains itself. No reveal, no mastermind, just the structure. And the slow realization that escape might not mean anything because no one is waiting on the other side. The sequels exist. Ignore them. The original is perfect as a standalone thought experiment that happens to have people dying in inventive ways. Number 4, The Vast of Night.
They've come here before. They've liked this place. They always have.
New Mexico, late 1950s. The whole town is at the high school basketball game. A teenage switchboard operator and a radio DJ are working the night when a strange audio frequency starts cutting through the town's signals. Nobody knows what it is. They start investigating. Andrew Patterson made this for $700,000, and it's one of the most formally audacious sci-fi films of the last decade. Shot to look like an old TV broadcast, complete with faked VHS scan lines and a framing device that places the entire story inside a Twilight Zone-style anthology show called Paradox Theater. Variety wrote that this shot alone would probably get Patterson hired to make something 20 times the budget. They were right. He's since been offered considerably bigger projects. But The Vast of Night doesn't need a bigger budget. It needs exactly what it has: a script that trusts dialogue over spectacle, 2 extraordinary young performances, and the specific atmosphere of a night that started ordinary and stopped being ordinary very quietly, without anyone noticing exactly when. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. One of the finest debut features in recent memory. Number 3. Primer. Fair warning on this one, because Primer will confuse you. On purpose. Completely. Without an apology. Shane Carruth made this for $7,000. He wrote it, directed it, scored it, edited it, and starred in it. He also has a degree in mathematics, which explains why the time travel mechanics in this film are more rigorously logical than in any other time travel film ever made. 2 engineers in a garage accidentally built a time machine. They start using it carefully and cleverly for personal gain, and then the loops start overlapping, and versions of themselves start interfering with other versions. And the film refuses to stop and explain any of it. There are diagrams online. Dedicated primer scholars have spent years charting exactly what happens and in what order. They do not fully agree. It is a $7,000 film that has generated more intellectual discussion than most films with $200 million budgets. One watch won't be enough. That's a guarantee, not a warning. Number 2, Coherence.
This is bad. This is really bad.
What's the box?
That was at the other house.
Oh my God. Baby, what did you see?
Hugh, what did you see?
$50,000 budget. 5 nights of shooting in the director's living room, with actors who were given outlines of their characters, not scripts, and told to improvise. And what came out is one of the most unsettling science fiction thrillers of the past 30 years. 8 friends gather for a dinner party on the night a comet is passing close to the Earth. The lights go out. One house down the street still has power. 2 of them go to check it out. And what they find is... Look, I'm not going to tell you. Not a word. What I will tell you is this. The film is not about the comet. The comet is just the thing that makes visible what was already there. The tensions, the resentments, the choices people made and didn't make, the versions of their lives they picked, and all the other versions they quietly gave up. I found this on a random scroll at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I finished it at 1 a.m. I lay in the dark for a bit, then I watched it again the next night. No other film on this list did that to me. Number 1, The Man from Earth. A university professor is packing boxes ready to move. His colleagues turn up unannounced for a farewell gathering. They press him to explain why he's leaving so suddenly, and he decides to tell them the truth. He is 14,000 years old. A Cro-Magnon who stopped aging in prehistoric times. He moves every 10 years before anyone notices he doesn't age. That is the entire film. 8 people, 1 cabin in California, 90 minutes of conversation. The film was made for $200,000, shot in 7 days. Richard Shankman directed it like a stage play because that's what the budget allowed. Written by Jerome Bixby, the man who wrote for Star Trek and The Twilight Zone, on his deathbed, dictated to his son in the final weeks of his life. And it is one of the most genuinely absorbing things you will ever watch, because the question at its center, is he telling the truth, never fully resolves. And every subject it touches along the way, history, religion, science, identity, mortality, is handled with a precision that makes you forget there are no explosions. No spacecraft, nothing but people in a room. 100% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It became a cult film largely through piracy. The producers publicly thanked people for sharing it. I want to be clear about why this is number 1. Every other film on this list is underseen. This one is so obscure that recommending it feels like handing someone a key they didn't know they were missing. You will finish it and want to call someone. Not to talk about sci-fi, to talk about what you believe, about what you know, about what you've been assuming is true that might not be. That is what the best science fiction does. It uses the impossible to ask the most human questions, and this film does it better than almost anything else ever has. That's the end of our list. 18 sci-fi films driven by ideas, atmosphere, and imagination, not massive budgets. Now, I want to know, how many of these have you already watched? And what's your favorite sci-fi film of all time? Or is there another hidden gem you think deserved a spot on this list? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely read all of them. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to Cine Edge, and share this with someone who loves great sci-fi. There's a lot more coming. Until then, go watch something extraordinary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.